Capital Efficiency Committee. I'm Councilmember Jose Huizar. I'm joined by Councilwoman Gruel and Councilmember Zine. We have two items that we would like to put on consent, item number 6 and 7, if that's okay with my, well, actually, it's item number 6 and 7 on consent, if that's okay with you.
That's fine.
Could actually, number 4, can El Pueblo and the Bureau of Street Services, can you respond to the controller within 10 days? Is that reasonable enough time? We could also get rid of those right now as well. If
I believe that's doable for street services.
El Pueblo?
We responded in a letter form, doing a timeline approximately how long it would take for us to complete it.
They got theirs.
Oh, you did? Oh, okay.
We did submit.
You did submit it, okay.
To the committee.
Oh, you did?
Outlining our scope of work.
Okay. Well, let's...
Number 6, the corrective actions recommended, have they been implemented? On number 6, a number of corrective actions that were part of that report. Question is, have they been implemented? Anyone here from LAWA?
Anyone here from LAWA? No?
Well, I think then we should
Let's hold
hear
that
from
item.
them. And if they're not here, then we should continue it because there's
Yeah.
a lot of corrective actions.
Okay.
See if they're going to do that or not.
Let's control.
That's the question,
think
but the
we'd wanna-
controller doesn't implement it. LAWA implements it.
We should have someone from LAWA.
Yeah.
It's a LAWA situation.
So let's continue item number 6.
And if they're not here at 2:20, I doubt if they're going to be here.
Item 6, and we'd like to review the El Pueblo items as well. So within 10 days, or we'll hear this item again as well. We'll continue that item. We'll continue let's do this. We could continue all those items, because I understand the CCYF one, we just recently received that one as well. Need some time to review that, so we could continue items 4, 6, and 7. It will give us enough time to figure those items out.
Okay, item number 1.
Yeah, so we will continue items 4, 6, and 7 to the next Audits Committee, and it will give us a time to sort those things out to see which ones, what the timelines that were given, and also some responses that we still need, and we need some answers from LAWA as well.
Can we find a seat for the controller? Did you want to sit?
No, that's okay.
Okay. We don't want to make you stand. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. And actually, we could move to the risk management issues. We were going to do one, but since the controller's here, we will take that item up right now.
Item number 2.
Number 2 and 3, we could take those items together, please.
Item number 2 is a motion by Councilmember Huizar and Gruel relative to City Administrative Officer, Chief Legislative Analyst, City Attorney, and Controller to report on enterprise risk management. This item was also referred to the Budget and Finance Committee. And item number 3 is a CAO response to the Controller report relative to the evaluation of citywide risk management functions.
You're welcome, Controller, and
I appreciate the concern of your colleague. Thank you.
We're
You're
just
a scholar and a gentleman.
That's it. Thank you. I learned from you. Scholarly part.
Definitely. So, council members, thank you. I'm going to be very brief. This is not an audit. It's a report. It's a study. And really the impetus for it was Mayor Villaraigosa struggling with some of the settlements that were coming forward, in particular at that time from fire department cases. You know, the frustration that the city has experienced on and off for years of trying to control risk and liabilities and payouts. And so we decided to take a look, and we hired an outstanding firm to help us do this report, KPMG. And we came back with really a report on state-of-the-art of what's out there, enterprise risk management systems. I remember talking to the consultants about the benchmarking piece and asking before we came out with the audit, so who's doing it really well? And interestingly, there wasn't a lot of best practices state-of-the-art in government here in the States. It's either in the private sector or I think in the British colonies, former colonies, former British Empire, New Zealand, Australia, Canada, where the public sector is doing some new and innovative things. Another reason I wanted to, it's very, very important that we start doing something differently. When I was on the council towards the end, and council members on, you'll remember charter reform, one of the big battles was where to put risk management. And there was a whole struggle back and forth. Should it stay in the CAO's office? Should it go to the Office of Finance? Yeah. Mayor Reardon wanted it in the Office of Finance, which was a brand-new office being formed. It went there for a while, and it went back to the CAO. And also in between, the City Attorney's Office has said, we'd like to have risk management. One of the recommendations in this report, by the way, is so slam dunk, it's breathtaking. It says something like city departments should make a list of their top 10 priority risk management concerns, the top risks. Now that's breathtaking that we don't have that just as a standard thing. And then my last comment really focuses on looking going forward and working with the CAO's office, because when this report came out, and then shortly again after the grants management audit, a lot of this was directed to looking to the CAO to lead the way. And the CAO's response to both of these reports was, we're in tight times, we're not sure that, that this is the right time to go forward. I guess, I'm going to pitch, when is the right time to go forward? I'm not going to argue about resources because, you struggle more with trying to figure out where do those come from. I'm not going to argue with the CAO that they can't do more with less. But this report lays out an implementation that starts with some small steps and goes to bigger ones. And I'm hoping that this committee takes the lead on moving the city to at least implementing some of the small steps and at least coming up with a plan that starts to move us in the right direction. What we do now, again, as in other things, is piecemeal. It's chopped up. No one is totally in charge. It's very reactive. We basically put our efforts into trying to manage claims once they're in and to defend against them. But the preventative piece is almost non-existent. So that's kind of my lead into what the auditors and the experts can talk about in more detail.
One of the problems that I've seen within the police department is that there will be risk management situations which then the city attorney has to get involved and defend and take action, but it never really gets back to the police department to change a policy or a procedure. And I'm sure it happens to many other departments, where the city attorney says, we have to defend this action, the police department does this, and there's that big gap and that bridge that you're saying, and it's been that way in many departments for a long, long time.
Councilmember Zine, exactly. When the fire department cases and the most infamous one was coming forward, and the mayor did his veto, and I remember, and we were doing our audit of the fire department, and I remember asking this rhetorical question inside my office. I wonder what's going on inside the fire department, and when the city attorney is seeing these cases coming forward, who's talking to the fire department and saying, whoa, you've got a problem here, just defending against these cases, you better start making this and this change, and much less to prevent new ones. But I don't think those conversations occurred or occur. And in terms of the pointing of the finger to blame, it's really how we do things that needs to change.
And that general manager from that department doesn't have to really concern himself or herself with the liability payout, because that comes from the city attorney's liability account, and there's never a connection.
To-
And $40 million later, we say, let's do something about it, so.
Is it charter, thank you, is it charter where it goes, or just a city policy as far as risk management?
Well,
Because I know,
I-
because I was here when it's made a couple of the changes, so,
right.
and I don't remember
know if
it
there's
was-
someone in the room that is more expert than I am. I mean, I know the charter addressed risk management, but I think subsequent, it's got to be in the admin code or something,
Right.
that it's moved around.
To the
So I
different-
I don't think a charter change is needed, certainly, to go forward on any
On
of
this,
this.
right, but on
No.
just on, in its placement.
I don't
And
think so.
And I think the points, and Mr. Weiser and I both serve on the Budget Committee, and we're broken records as the rest of them, Mr. Parks and Mr. Rosendahl, which is when they come in with a issue, we ask, okay, if it's, for example, a traffic accident, how many accidents did that person have ahead of time, and why didn't you take action before that? Number two, are they still with the city of Los Angeles, and how is that being operated? Two, patterns within the fire department or the police department. We can give you numerous examples where we ask those questions, and they always say, just as you and I have discussed on audits, oh, yes, we're discussing that. We're figuring that out. But there isn't, as I think you've outlined here, a plan that says, we know this is exactly what they're doing and their responses to it. It becomes a case by case. But we have consistently kind of ask those questions and get the answers you think you want, because they're responding to you, but where's the follow through and knowing that where that risk is? And I think it would probably, having a risk management unit would pay for itself within a very short period of time. And
But that's the problem. It takes a little bit of time, and so often, the things that are coming out of audits are saying, we are bleeding money.
Right, no.
But to fix it takes a little bit of money or resources. And I would like to tell all three of you about one thing, because you just raised this issue, Councilmember Gould. When I was on the council and a settlement came in on a traffic accident, I stood up and asked the question, have we fixed the problem that caused the accident?
Right, yeah.
The answer was no, because nobody had told the Department of Transportation and Street Services that each of them needed to do things. And the settlement was 1.5 years after the accident occurred. So again, just listening to you say that, I think we're still in exactly the same boat. Something happens, we deal with the settlement, all the attention goes there, and half the time, we're not fixing the problem, and we're not fixing for future liability issues.
It's everything from the street being repaired, if that was the cause, or
Yeah.
the sidewalk being repaired, to more systematic training issues that may be required, or how we had an instance in a selection process and how their policies were done in the Los Angeles Police Department. As you remember me jumping up on that one. And it was, just in the sense of, well, we've always done it that way. Okay, well, that doesn't make sense. How do you change that now? So-
See, and as these things are coming forward, there should be someone in charge who's analyzing what caused this. Is it likely to happen again? Is there something we need to fix to prevent it? We don't have that now. That's what an enterprise risk management system would deliver. And I know this isn't an easy report to read, because it's technical, and it's really written to the experts that would be involved in risk management. But it is a blueprint.
Well, other than the police and fire departments that come to closed session when we discuss these cases, we had to continually push to get the department, whether it be DOT or Bureau of Engineering, whatever department it is, which any department, to come to the executive session to discuss, to answer questions. What have you done with this employee? What have you done with this situation? How have you corrected it? And we had to keep pulling teeth to get them to come. They wouldn't come to the executive session. The city attorney would be there to present the case, and the department, which that falls on, wasn't even responsive to come into council executive session to have a hearing and to give input into what they've done, if they've done anything. We've been pushing. We're now getting more compliance than before, but the police and fire department was always there, a representative giving information. But these other departments, for example, the zoo, someone would do something at the zoo, an employee would do something wrong, a liability, millions of dollars paid out. Have you corrected it? No one's there to answer the question. And this was a continuing saga. Where are we going to fix it?
So it's almost like council in executive session, where you're being asked to vote on settlements.
Right.
That is where some belated risk management and some attempts at prevention begin. By the way, the report also, it very much says, this all actually is in the mayor's jurisdiction, But we can expect the mayor to be in charge of risk management, and that's why it ends up saying, therefore, makes sense to have the CAO in charge.
Good, good.
And speaking of the CAO, if we have representatives from the CAO's Risk Management Unit come up, and we could hear your response to this report.
Clear the deck.
Oh, you're not going to stay?
Okay.
Both are coordinated today in colors, so it's nice.
I don't know if she remembers, but she gave Risk Management a Productivity Award a couple of years ago. So,
Did I?
Yeah, thank you very much.
Oh, good.
So, yeah.
Okay. Where was that?
It was at the
Quality and Productivity?
Quality and Productivity for our risk financing program.
Okay.
Yeah, a little different.
Yeah,
Our
it is
insurance
actually
program,
a
a
little-
little different, is a little different. I just wanted to thank her because I hardly ever see her. Anyway.
She's over there working at the
Yeah,
controller's office.
Exactly.
But I do sign your paycheck.
Yes, you do. Thank you very much. My children thank you very much.
Can you identify yourself?
I'm Victor Parker, and I'm with the CAO Risk Management. And we've reviewed the report, and I would echo a lot of what has been said here, because the report looked at evaluation of citywide risk management, and then it came back and said, well, you got to look at this concept. And enterprise risk management is, lack of a better term, is cutting edge, forward thinking, very progressive. And it is being practiced more in the private sector, but it is something that's been growing and growing probably over the last 10, 15 years, and will probably ultimately end up in the public sector. And it is certainly something the city should aspire to. So
There's no large municipality using the...
no, higher education, I think if you want to look at a large organization, probably University of California, but no municipality, large municipality that I know of. But I do think...
In the United States.
In the United States, yeah, I'm sorry, in the United States.
We're not going to send you on a worldwide search yet.
Okay, but so we're very much in agreement with the report. I think it would take some time to get there, but I think it is a concept and an approach that the city needs to look at seriously in evaluating risks. And I think we're focusing today, or a lot of the stories we're talking about, were in the area of what we would call hazard risk, or insurance risk, which would be liability or comp or property. But enterprise risk management is much more encompassing than that, and I think the report outlines that. But it's all financial, strategic, reputation risk, environmental, technology. It's really all the risks that an organization faces, that you systematically look at it and try to mitigate risks as much as you can before things happen. So I did want to bring that point up. So I think we're in concurrence with the report. There's some nuances that we may have in how it would be implemented, and also was touched on resource allocation. So, but all in all, we found the report to be very informative and very forward-thinking.
May I just
Yes, sure.
translate that into what I summarized the written response to be, which is, it's an interesting report, but we're not moving on it.
We need to move on it.
Yeah, and just let me state that in terms of the focus of this committee, this is perhaps one of the most important items that I think this committee has seen, and amongst a number of others that the controller brings to us, but this is one that really we're going to focus on, and we're going to focus on it for every continuing meeting that we have to get updates from the CAO as to our progress on how we could implement some of the recommendations in this report. I believe it's that important. I think my colleagues would agree as well, that we would like to see a comprehensive assessment from the CAO on how we could implement the ERRM process here in the city of Los Angeles, and also implement some of the recommendations in this report. And how often do we meet in this committee? Every 2 weeks? Twice every 2 weeks. Perhaps within 30 days we'll get the first report, But there and after that, we would like to have an item on our agenda on a report from the CAO and the Controller's Office that hopefully could help us monitor our progress in that, and along with the CLA support for this committee, to see how we're working on implementing that. So hopefully within 30 days, we could have our initial response from the CAO on how we could implement those recommendations. I think it's of that importance. How the controller put it, we say we don't have resources to implement this, but this certainly is one of those items that you put a little resources into this, and we'll realize a whole lot more savings and resources later on down the pipeline. So,
Well, if we're spending $40 million a year in the city attorney's liability account, that's $40 million.
And council members, on page 6 of the executive summary, there's, and then more detailed in the report, but there's very much steps to move forward. And we talk about establishing a steering committee. We talk about establishing a staff for the ERM organization of 2 full-time equivalents. So, when you're asking the CAO to come back, I guess I would urge that they come back with, I think that's what you're talking about, actually, Councilmember Weezer, a proposal on how we can move forward, step 1, step 2, understanding that it's a change in thinking, it's a change in organization, so it's phased in according to what our resources are. But anyway, I'm thrilled to hear that direction.
There's a lot of work to be done in terms between now and then, and to determine how best to move forward each step on each one of these recommendations.
Right.
Yes.
But I think we don't know, there doesn't seem to be that many hurdles that we can't get over. And if we know from the CAO, here's how much it would cost, then we look at that again with the fact that we may not realize it in its first 6 months, but I do believe over time that we would see a great return on our investment. And so I think part of it is the details that we want them to come back with, not just a report on here are the challenges, but here's what it would take to implement, and here's the action items we need the council and mayor to take to do that, and have it discussed as part of our budget priorities as we're going forward.
And the consultants are here if you have any specific questions of them.
We don't know, Controller, but I think if you would help, and I'm not sure where it's time is money as we continue to ask consultants to come back to us, but we would appreciate if you would help us as we move forward, because this is technical.
Right.
And if we leave it at this point where all of us, we would hope that we continue to have your assistance and support.
Absolutely.
Whether it's from your consultants or your office that could help us move forward with this item too.
No,
A lot of times you bring us the reports and then we work with the CLA to implement in the departments, but here is one where I think we would need your assistance to move forward if that's okay.
Okay, well, I'm happy and eager to work fully with the CAO and with the council, because it's
Your
time.
staff is back here saying more work for us, right there.
Right, well, I mean, we'll figure the details out, but
Okay.
we're eager to stay involved and to help. I'd really like to see some major movement on this in the next couple of months, so
great.
that'd be
Thank you.
great. Thanks.
Without
you.
the direction, and we'll hear back in 30 days, and we'll look forward to working with the CAO and the CLA and the Controller's Office on how to implement.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next item.
You want to start with item number 1?
Yes.
Councilmember?
Yes.
Item number 1 is communication from the Community Redevelopment Agency relative to the motion by Councilmember Zine and Smith regarding the status of the Sherman Way beautification project.
Thank you very much. Do we have someone here to report on this item?
Good afternoon, council members. Jay Verrado with the CRA, Regional Administrator for the West San Fernando Valley Region. With me are Conrad Chavez, also with the CRA, and Craig Bullock, also with CRA. This is a report on the Canoga Park Streetscape project that encountered some unfortunate delays. And we're happy to report that we do have consensus with the community to move the project forward. We believe it can still be delivered under budget and on time. And I believe the report came to you in your packages. And we're available to answer any other questions you may have and respond to any comments you have also.
Oh, okay, no, I'm gonna think of that one. Yeah.
Mr. Zine?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A disturbing email I received from the CRA was to waive this matter. And the reason I didn't think it was appropriate to waive this, it was a major news story in the Valley, disrupted the San Fernando Valley Sherman Way for a long period of time. And the reason I wanted heard in this committee was so we'd be transparent and bring to the public arena what resolution we had for this matter. We've had meetings, I know you have had meetings with the contractor to resolve it. The community was very concerned, very upset. It was showing government not doing what it's supposed to do on a beautification project. So I didn't want to waive it. I wanted it heard. I wanted all the cards on the table so the community that's concerned about this and the $300-some thousand that have been spent, the justification and what we're doing with this particular project, so the community would know that we're not pushing under the carpet. Because oftentimes, if we don't have the public hearing, it is pushed under the carpet. I was unaware of the status where we are now. When you say we can get it done on time and within the budget, the money that was expended, as I believe it was $300-some thousand to this point, which basically they tore up the area, didn't finish the project. It was put back to the original condition, and now there's a concern about doing it again. And this is basically a decorative crosswalk at 3 different intersections along Sherman Way. So when it comes to, you mentioned the community, the issue that came about with the culvert and some of the construction problems, where are we now with that issue of what they originally designed and what has been proposed? Because some people have said the painting doesn't work, it gets rubbed away. That issue is still in the public arena. And also the situation with the culvert, how can we do this with the culvert without doing a major redesign and still stay within budget, which is a concern I have, as well as the time frame. And then how do we, if we proceed forward, how do we then mitigate the impact on the businesses? How do we mitigate the impact on traffic while they're doing the construction? And again, this is a beautification of the intersections, of 3 major intersections on the crosswalks to make them decorative crosswalks. And I didn't think it would be as complicated as it is, but it's become obviously a contentious matter in the San Fernando Valley in my district. So, Jay, if you can explain some of that.
Sure. In regards to the culvert, while it was known that there was a culvert underground at the Owens Mouth intersection with Sherman Way, it was not known how close that culvert was to the surface of the road. And unfortunately, in some areas, that culvert is about an inch away from the surface of the road, meaning only 1 inch of asphalt or concrete, whichever material be used on the beautification project, would be able to be flattened and used as a decorative material. Unfortunately, you cannot use just 1 inch of concrete with stamping, with concrete stamping and doing a decorative intersection at Owens Mouth. And from information we received from the project architect, it was recommended that all intersections be consistent. So from that point, it was determined that we should reevaluate which materials would be used for the intersection and explore other alternatives. And just last Friday, we met with members of the Canoga Park Business Improvement Association, Chamber of Commerce, and other members in the community, and we agreed with them to move forward with a Duratherm product that uses asphalt, can be stamped at that level, doesn't actually include much stamping, but lays in a plastic material into the street and still provides the beautification look. And this avoids having to re-engineer the culvert so that it would be, which would really becomes a public improvement project as opposed to just a beautification project.
And this is strictly beautification where they have the stamped crosswalk. As far as functionality, right now it works smooth. It's a nice road surface. There's no impediment. So this is not something we need to redesign because of some safety hazard or some liability or risk. This is strictly a beautification and to have that decorative crosswalk.
Correct.
On Sherman Way at the 3 intersections to beautify the area in addition to other landscape that's going to be performed.
That's correct.
So the Duratherm, I understood they weren't supportive of that. Do you now have them supporting that, the
They
beautification?
are now supportive.
Did you twist their arms, or did you bribe them?
Bribed.
Right. You got them to support it.
No, it's, we did have a very good discussion, evaluated the product, the product manufacturer was there, explained the pitfalls, it's only as good as the asphalt that it's in. And so everyone understood that, but they still wanted to move forward with the project.
Craig, you have some comment?
I think one of the items that they were looking at was the street print, which is like the crosswalks that were done in Merceda, and street print is that crosswalk that's between City Hall and City Hall East, and that was the one they were not supportive of.
Okay.
The Duratherm is a different process and has a longer longevity.
And the project will be done within the prescribed budget that was originally appropriated for this?
That's correct. The material's less expensive, but in order to minimize the impact on businesses, we believe we should have the work done at nighttime. And unfortunately, nighttime work will cost more than working in the regular daytime hours. But, if you look at the overall impact on the community, it may be a better solution to have the workers out there at night because the congestion won't build up while the work is going on.
And then what kind of consideration are we getting from the vendor? And I think there was a vendor and a sub on this. What kind of consideration are we receiving from them on this particular project? Which I think, was it $330,000 we've already paid?
$330,000 we've paid. We have to work with them to find out what can come back to the CRA. However, we did direct them to close up the streets, take out the concrete that had been laid, because the streets would have been closed regardless had the project moved forward with concrete material as opposed to asphalt. The streets were narrowed down to one lane in each direction. That created a lot of congestion. And so those impacts still would have happened under the original contract where the streets were closed off. But we're looking at it. The asphalt material that had been used to replace where the concrete was can be used as part of the new street improvements. In all cases, at all four quadrants of the intersection, the contractor will have to scrape off about 2 inches. And in the quadrants where there is not the new asphalt, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe they'll be pouring new asphalt there just to make sure the base is consistent throughout all the intersections.
Okay.
So,
And contract management will be overseen by the city or by outside vendor?
CRA.
Because previously it was outside vendor.
Correct.
Okay. Well, I hope that it works out so we don't have to have another hearing on this and another upset community, another negative article in the newspaper. I know that the community wants to have that. We have the funds to beautify Canoga Park, Reseda, and I just hope that with your leadership and that of the city oversight, Charlie Mims, make sure you watch this closely, because we don't want to see another controversy erupt over something that's supposed to beautify a community. In fact, it created a lot of havoc in the community. So I'm pleased with where we're moving with this and await the ribbon cutting.
We will
when
be
it's
watching
finally
it very
complete.
closely. And I'm happy to announce, I believe the All-American City logo will be in the intersections also.
The only community in the entire city of Los Angeles that
Yes.
has that title, All-American City. That'll be a nice gesture for them.
It's a challenge. That's a challenge for us.
Well, we're already there. So you could be number 2.
Thank you very much. Note and
Thank you.
file this item, Mr.
Yes,
Zine, is that
thank you,
fine?
thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you,
We'll
Councilman.
note and
Thank you.
file this item.
Okay.
Next item.
Mr. Chair, we'll move forward with item number 1.
Yes, note and file it.
Item number 5 is a controller report relative to the fiscal year 2006-2007 audit observations and recommendations.
Thank you very much. I know Ms. Gruhl had some questions on this. Can the relevant staff please come up to the podium? Thank you. Ms. Gruhl.
Thank you. How are you? Good?
Thank you.
Last time I inappropriately, after I left, I remembered you were a controller staffer, not a Simpson and Simpson, so I apologize. I hadn't seen you since then to say that. I guess the two,
This is good. I thought you were Simpsons. You're from the controller's office?
Yes.
Can you identify yourself again, please?
Louis
Simpson.
Benjamin, Louis Benjamin from the City Controller's Office.
Okay, let's,
And Lyndon Salvador from the Controller's Office.
And actually, I am Grace June from Simpson and Simpson.
you all come up together sometimes, so anyways, my staff gave me a hard time last time. You know he's from controller, so anyways, my apologies for that. I just had two issues real quick, and one was DOT, and I don't know if we have anyone from DOT here. There's, okay. Sorry.
Why are they always shy and hide in the back? Why don't they come forward to the hot seat? There you go, you have the hot seat, the other man takes the easy seat.
Auditors are so anxious to come forward.
If you could explain to me on this, where it says, reading it, during the audit of parking citations receivable, we noted that the allowance for uncollectibles was understated by 1.5 million, which is a big number. And are the uncollectibles mean you'll never collect them, or those are you referred to that particular contractor for collection purposes?
They are being referred to the particular contractor. Actually, the ACS, which is our contractor, is the one who handles the collection and the processing of accounts receivable or parking fines citations. And on this particular finding, this is an error. It's a transfer error. The amount was 37 million. It was transferred to our calculation spreadsheet as 37 million. And based on that, we calculated, based on our formula, we multiplied it by 75%. The result was 1.5 million. But it's only estimated uncollectible. Okay. It's an estimated amount.
An estimated uncollectible.
Yeah.
So 37 million is how much you collect each year, or you collect more than that? Or 37 million is your normal uncollectible?
37 million is,
Is which?
per year. But
Per year.
our total...
Wait.
Yeah, is what? Is it the collectibles, or is that a total of what we collect each year, or is that the
The
total of
total
what we
that we collect
uncollected?
each year is like, this year we collected 21 million. But the uncollectible, this particular year, which is 0607, I believe it's the 37 million is uncollectible for that particular year,
37 million not collected?
not collected.
How does that differs, because you just said we normally collect 21 million. So how could in a subsequent year we get 37 million uncollectible?
This is a total from prior year, 5 years back.
Okay. All right, so I think I have more questions, not about the fact in the transfer error, because although that is a problem, I'm glad we identified it and do that, but more about the uncollectibles and the amounts. And so maybe, which I think, you were going to, Mr. Zine, as well, when you were asking that.
So you're saying in 5 years, there's $37 million that we haven't collected
Actually,
in parking revenues?
the total is 149 million.
149
I'll
million.
get back to that.
Okay.
Because I'm
Well, maybe,
Okay, wait, if you could just get to us, what is for the last 2 years, how much do we collect in citations issued, and how much is uncollected each year? If you could just provide that information to us before this comes to council.
today,
No, before it comes to council.
do you have it now?
in the top of my head, the total collection for 0708 is 21 million.
It's better to
I think it would be better just to have it in writing.
I'm
Yeah.
just
Tell the
amazed.
general manager to
Okay,
say,
I'll
here's
provide-
how much we collect each year.
Sure.
Here's how much is total collected, uncollectible, which is a combination of several years put
several
forward, and
years.
what is it that we had uncollectible in this last fiscal year?
Okay.
I think we're interested in the larger number of what we collect each year, the number in which we're going to have to write off, and then how were we doing this last year in comparison to other years?
Okay, so we will get that information from...
Are we trying to find a way to collect the uncollectibles?
Well, yes, I mean, there are, and that's part of what some of the audits that I know have been done, is looking at if Office of Finance is handling all of that. How long does it take us to refer them to collection agencies? In this instance, I think ACS does it from start to finish, correct? Or do we send it to them when they're just uncollectible?
We provide the aging report to the finance department.
Yeah, it's all handled out of the
quarter.
Office of Finance primarily, so. But I think the data would help us kind of determine what, if and if there are other actions. My other item, which was not DOT, and I don't know, Mr., if you have questions for me, DOT, was, Richard, you knew that, huh, didn't you? You knew I was going to ask a question on false alarms. Just the two questions, and said, and this report was done, and has probably been corrected then, that 2.8 million of overstated, it says in here in the Simpson & Simpson report, the fees receivable balance of 13.5 million was overstated by 2.8, and that's been adjusted in this last year's budget as well?
Yes, it was corrected in the financial statement, audited financial statement.
Okay, on that. And then I guess the other process, we haven't acted on your report yet, correct?
No, the two items. One, we have the report for the contract for the new false alarm management system has been transmitted to the mayor's office. It's at the CAO's office, my understanding is now, for review, and then we'll go through the various committee process. So that's moving forward. The other report that we had that came to this committee was just received and filed, as I recalled, based on the status of what we've done. Just to give you an update on some issues that we have dealt with, the issue here about a manual to process and the policies and procedures, those are all in place. The manual existed. No one knew it was there, but it was there. It does exist. The policies and procedures have been updated. We have worked with ITA, and we have come up with a process now with ITA where we can get the information that is needed by a mere phone call. And I think we have resolved those issues as related to having accurate reporting of accounts receivables and revenue that has been generated. I'm pleased to report to you today that in fiscal year that just concluded, the budgeted amount for false alarm fine revenue was $7.2 million. And we, as of June 13th, collected $8.3 million. So we collected 1.1 million more than was budgeted. That was significant. We had 3 good quarters.
Those were on fines, just on fines.
On fines, yes. So we exceeded the revenue on fines. A lot of effort went into that, as I know you're aware. Last time I brought in the visual display of the boxes and boxes, and I know they've had a chance to speak with the members about the bad addresses from our current system. Well, we've utilized the LAPD overtime to bring folks in on Saturday to work through, try and get as best address as we can to get that information out, because the non-permitted alarms still account for 2/3 of the false alarms. And the non-permitted alarms become the most difficult ones to collect, because if we have a bad address, we have nothing to go back on to try to validate an address. If we have a false alarm permit and we get a bad address, we can go back to the permit, get the permit information, and move that forward quickly. So that still becomes our challenge, but again, we're focusing our efforts in those areas. But we have certainly improved collections. We have improved our processes and procedures, and I think that the staff has done a good job to come in compliance.
And on the permits, one of the things we spoke about was actually having the building, that when you put in a new alarm, that the alarm companies be required to get a building permit, and that permit fee, in essence, would be, and as part of that, they'd have to demonstrate they have a police permit. Where are we on that? And
that was in the
apologize.
report that we brought to
Right.
committee, and the committee received and filed it. So there was no direction to the city attorney to move
What
forward
committee
with
was
that. It came through this committee, and then I believe it went to public safety.
And they received
'Cause
and filed it?
I believe so, sir. Yeah.
I thought we had given some direction for them to move on that, so I want
thought
to
we
check,
did too.
because I think that
It's-
that's the only way, because since, unfortunately, the alarm lobbyists went to the state of California legislature, which they seem to be doing lately, lobbyists to do that, is to go around us and sorry, I have a little sensitive, examples, is the fact that we can't, we wanted to force the alarm companies to have to pay it, and they wouldn't, but there is potentially this way, which we talked, I know you sat in the city
Right.
attorney's office, so we'll get with you again and make sure, because I think the intent of all of us was to move on, have the city attorney give us some feedback, and if that was not the right instruction that went through, then we will.
It's the model that the city of San Francisco ordinance that has been tested, which is you cannot install an alarm system without a permit, and that onus goes on to the installer.
That solves the problem.
You're right, sir. Absolutely, and it solves our problem tremendously in these false alarms. But as you can see, one of the issues was the collection of revenue. Well, I think we've done a good job there, but certainly there is a significant amount of revenue out there. Still, I can give you an example. In the last quarter of the fiscal year, we billed $3.569 million for false alarms, and we collected $2.176. So again, that gives you over $1 million of uncollectibles, and the vast majority of that uncollectible is to non-permitted alarms.
But the fact that the $8 million, I mean, I know we had a big debate clearly in City Council on the LAPD going out to that, but hopefully that is also some revenue going back in that way to ensure we're providing the officers with the money. So, but we'll follow up on that other, because that was my intent.
Do they now have the new form where they leave at the residence?
Yes, sir. Your form, design form.
Design form, okay. Well, because what happens, your alarm goes off, the police respond, you're not home, you come home, you get a bill, you don't know. Now we leave a note on the door,
Right.
on the doorknob, say, hey, we were there, no burglary, your alarm went off. So at least they're notified, so.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Now, is this report going to council next? Is that,
If it's approved, it will go to council.
okay, so we'll approve this with,
But we need to have that other matter resolved on the alarm
yeah, that's what I
permit.
mean. Well, we need to clarify as well, with a caveat of two things, the transportation issue of getting that information from the Department of Transportation, and clarifying whether the other report was received and filed, or we thought we had continued it here for further
We can,
reports back.
we can,
Okay.
if you can continue it again, so if you want, or,
I think we just want to know, did that item go to council without action in instructing the city attorney to draft potentially the building and safety instructions that would allow us to require that they get a permit before they install?
we have to
So I-
double
well,
check.
fine with
Yeah, so we got those two
Two items.
report backs before this item gets to council.
Okay, so
I believe I have a copy of the staff report with me I can leave with the
Okay. Which one
clerk.
was
Yeah.
Okay, so, Mr. Chair, just for clarification, item number 5 will be continued pending the two reports.
No, we're going to move forward this item to council,
Okay.
but we need to clarify those two items, one on the police, on the alarms, and the other on the Department of Transportation. We need that information from us beforehand.
The council file number is 07-3262, and the report, I have a copy of it, if you'd like a copy.
Okay, good.
Thank you. Next item, any?
That would be all.
That would be it?
Very good.
Okay, meeting adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Thanks. Okay. Well, good timing, 1 hour. That's the goal. That's the goal.
Good, man. All three of us are here.
Didn't happen. I thought it was going to happen in the committee, but it never happened.
So, we have item 4.
I don't think we called 2, but you know, that was, I was telling them it was Kevin's call. But
Yeah, so what's going to
I would say 2 obviously was continued. I mean, I would think with 3.
So both 2 and 3 will be continued.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then 4 continued pending the report of...
Yeah, we'll continue. We can wrap this up at the next meeting. Continued.
And this one, they wanted to continue it because they wanted a representative.
We'll get Lawa present on this one. Yeah.
And this one was also continued?
Yes.
The rep from CCYF. Right?
Yes.
So most of them are continued.
So I would think for the next agenda, we'll put 6, 7.
How can we turn this
4.
off?
Talk to me. I'm sure they're off.